are live on YouTube. Happy Sunday, everyone. Happy Easter, Gordana.
Happy Easter. And happy Sunday to everyone being here today.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, we've been away for a while. We've rested a little bit. And here we are. Today, we're going to talk about the king-queen archetype.
Yes.
It's a tough one because it's attacked in our society. We are not taught how to access our own kingdom. We're actually taught how to focus outside of it. So today is going to be such a beautiful thing to explore how to access this energy of connecting to the kingdom within, this energy of integrity, authenticity, compassion, servitude within each and every one of us. So, I'm so looking forward for this conversation today.
I am looking forward to it as well. This topic is everything for me, is what my soul was here to express. I was telling someone the other day, if it's someone, the authorities could say everyone has to wear purple shirts because purple does something beneficial. And I, inside me, say, I'm not wearing that purple shirt. I am not going to put that purple shirt on. And I questioned, like, is that rebellious? Is that ego? Like, what is this whole thing? And through my childhood and through my healing process, I have learned that sovereignty is the most important thing to me, without any question at any moment. If I say I will do it, then I will do it. If I say I won't do it, no amount of force, coercion, intimidation, threat, or violence will make me do the thing I no longer want to do. And I have left an area in the United States where that was seen as outlandish and it didn't fit. And yet I would bless everyone with that gift if I could, where we all stand, and that way we can lock arms with one another. But this king, the sovereign archetype, is such an important, and I am so glad we're going through it on this day. I don't think there's any accident about rising. And what does rising really mean? Rising in your own power, overcoming the sun rises, and after the darkness, the sun rises.
Absolutely. And it's so funny that you're talking about it being the most important thing to access this integrity, this sovereignty, this feeling of being a sovereign being. I was browsing books yesterday, looking for the king archetype and looking for what other people say about it. And I stumbled upon the archetype of the self, or the symbol of the archetype of the self. It's a circle with a dot in it. And I'm like, but wait a minute, because the way I experience the archetype energy of the king or queen is like a straight vertical line, and I own everything that is around me. So seen from above, that is the archetype of the self, or actually the symbol of the self. So for me, it's really important to understand that there is a vertical line that goes through my body. This is where I feel the king or the queen within me, the queen energy within me. It makes me stand up straight. I feel like I stand with dignity and I expand out. So it's a line, like all the chakras are aligned, and I'm standing in that truth when I understand it. So it's like pushing me forward like this, standing straight. And then everything that is around me is my kingdom. It's actually my creation. So if I would speak my own language, that would be that I am the co-creator of this around me. I am the creator of my own reality. My own reality is my kingdom. And if I can stand straight in it, I allow others to be in that space with me. If I am authentic, then they can be authentic with me. So being there for them, serving, not ruling them. That is the difference between what society thinks of a king and what a king or a queen actually means, the energy of the king or the queen. So the real energy, there is of course the shadow energy, and that's what I tapped into here when I talked about the way we look at kings from the outside as rulers. But there's an enormous difference in what we're talking about here is the king queen archetype, which is all about serving, not ruling. That's the shadow side.
Okay, so I'm going to bring this up. This is I've put a lot of, just realized like I have maybe almost 300 videos on YouTube. People found this one video and they're coming on, and I talk about the King James Bible a lot, and people have been bringing out their opinions left and right about it. But what I can verify is I have, I think, like 20 different Bible versions here, and they all say something different in this one verse. So a lot of people are like, oh, Freemasons wrote the Bible and King James, blah, blah, blah. Okay, well, here's what's interesting about this one verse. It says Revelation 1:6. It's talking about Jesus Christ and this whole concept of what is, the Bible talks about Jesus is the King of Kings. What does this King of Kings mean? He doesn't be served. The whole concept is inverted. It's the service of all. And then what does the true king do? A true king ensures everyone's freedom.
Yes.
False kingships that we've lived with on this earth for so long take everyone's freedom. So this is what's interesting. In Revelation 1:6 says, and has made us kings and priests unto God and his Father. To him be glory and dominion forever. But what's interesting, the King James Bible says that everyone is a king, regardless of gender, right? It's just everyone has the authority of the kingship. But all other Bible versions say he has made us a royal priesthood. So the Vatican came in and changed this narrative, stripping away that you're a king, but you serve a royal priesthood, back to this pontiff idea. And this has always stood out to me as something to discuss. And I see two worldviews going on, whether I am a sovereign made to stand in freedom and bless everyone else for their freedom, or I am seeking my own power to take from everyone everything. And that's, I think, the big difference is truly understanding the archetype of the sovereign, the king, the queen, is serving my freedom, and in doing so, serving everyone else their freedom.
Yeah, because the real energy, or the authentic energy of the king archetype is about two things. It is about order, and it is about blessings or abundance.
Yes.
It is abundance and blessings. So the order is about the vertical part, the one that I feel in my body when I stand like a queen or a king. That is where the order comes. The blessings and the abundance is the ring around me, where I put my the spire. That will be my kingdom. This means that anyone that enters this kingdom will feel seen, blessed, appreciated, valued, accepted. That is what a real king does. Allows everyone to feel authentic.
Yes.
So a real king must be authentic. A real king must know, or queen must know what they're here, their purpose here. When we talk about the shadow of this archetype, this is where you start thinking about how you can take things, rule over, control others, which is absolutely a big no-no in the universe. You can't control anyone else. There's nothing to take because you're one with everything. That's the biggest illusion. Right. So when you're tapped into the real frequency of this, you feel grounded. You feel centered. You feel order within you, which when it's expressed outwardly, it allows others to feel the same thing. They are allowed to be who they are because you are who you are. And you were talking about Christ. This is what Christ consciousness is. to know who you are and stand in that knowing fearlessly.
Yes, that's right. You know,
Yeah.
have you seen the show Game of Thrones?
Yes, of course I have.
Okay, so at the end, Bran becomes king, the paralyzed son, the son who
Yes.
is not the warrior, is not this
Mm-hmm.
grand archetype physically.
Yes. Yes.
And what I believe that show is teaching is an attribute of true kingship, meaning it's not in the body, it's not in the presentation, but it's literally in the voice.
Yes.
And I see kingship, I see sovereignty as, even if I whisper, it is so. I don't have to yell. People that have to yell, threaten, intimidate, coerce, like anytime I'm in this posturing of making someone flinch back, that's not king. That's the joker, the jester, whatever it is. It's not the king. But the king just has to say yes, no. And whatever the king says, it is so.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think it's about walking your talk. So you can't say one thing and do another thing. Freedom for me, not for thee. It's not, you have to, yes, you have to live by the principles that you show or want others to live by. You have to be the guideline. You have to be the one doing it first. You can't want other people to do something that you're not willing to do yourself.
Right. That's right.
So
that's why doing to others is the premise.
Yes.
Golden rule is the king's narrative of what you would do unto another, you would also do unto yourself. Yes.
Yes. And it's a question of understanding the role of service. What I found really interesting when I was reading about the archetype, the king archetype, is that this is an energy that you borrow for a while and then you release it. So I never understood when they say the king is dead, long live the king. But this shows very, very vividly how this energy is something that you tap into, you stand in it, and when you pass over to the other side, someone else takes this energy. In our way of, I mean, we're not real physical kings, but we are king. Every single one of us is a king and a queen. And who takes this energy? Well, our children. We leave this legacy to our children. So what's the legacy you want to leave to your children? If you think about that, then you will tap into the king energy, because you want your children to be able to handle themselves in this reality. So how do you do that? Well, you can't overprotect them. You can't shut them out. You have to be a balanced person to allow them to explore things. This is what a real king does, because a real king or queen knows their power of being in the center of their own reality, of owning everything in their own psyche. That is where the kingdom is. It's not about owning others, owning something in the physical world. It's about owning your own psyche, knowing how to balance yourself, knowing how to ground yourself, knowing how to center yourself, knowing what is the truth. You know, like when you say, if it allows you to breathe, then it's true. Well, that is a true king energy, to stand in this, breathe in, and allow it to tell you what is the truth. It will be a whisper in your,
always.
The voice that you're talking about, the voice is there. When you're tapped into it, the voice will always tell you what is the right thing to do. So yeah, go ahead.
It feel that, you know, this is where, you know, there's the term, the still small voice. The king's voice is never loud. It doesn't shout. It's always present. But yeah, I love that, releasing it. You only need it sometimes when a king is the king. There's a kingdom and a king. And I like the word kingdom. It's two words. It's king, a sovereign, dumb or dome, covering. So it is the sovereign covering. So Jesus said the kingdom of God is within you. The sovereign covering is within us. When we walk in our own sovereignty and can step into our own sovereign archetype, we're not concerned about the external world. The external world then becomes a reflection of our internal world, which is peace, goodness, joy, service,
prosperity,
abundance,
yes.
all these beautiful things. Everything starts from within. And the king, I like that circle with the dot, because the king kind of pulls it all back in. Come back in. You're over here. You're thinking about this. You're worried about that. This is going on, this distraction. It's like the king says, no. Come back.
Brings order to chaos.
Yeah.
Everything outside can be chaos, but if you are balanced and aligned, and if you live your principles, you will bring order to it. It was interesting how you said kingdom and you said dome. Dom in the Slavic language, the Serbian language, means home.
That's cool. The king home. Yeah.
Yes, the king home. Yes. So if we look at it from that perspective, in a family, the parents are actually the king and the queen.
Yes.
And the children live in that home, that dome, the kingdom, before they can choose, before they know how to, handle themselves outside of the home. This is the atmosphere. This is where they live. This is the land that they live in. So there is a lot of responsibility for a father and a mother to be the queen and the king of their own kingdom, so to speak, because the children are there. And this is where understanding, when you are tapping into the real or the authentic energy of the king and the queen, you will allow your children to try things. You will be able to forgive. You will be able to bless them. You will be able to appreciate them. You will know what is the right thing to do in the right moment. And punishment is never, ever the right thing for a real king.
No.
It can never be. You cannot punish someone into knowledge.
Right.
And a real king and queen knows this. So there is a challenge there, because your children won't always do what you want them to do. So how do you do this in a compassionate and loving way? And I think that our society has failed enormously on that aspect. We think that we can punish. We think that we can push and control. That's the shadow side of the king and queen. That is when you do not know your power, because you think you need to get it from the outside. Okay. When you're aligned, it comes from within. I'm sorry. Yes.
Oh, you're right. I have a parenting lesson that I just went through. This is one of the things I forgot to catch up with you on.
Yes.
A week and a half ago, I told my oldest daughter, but I was talking about the three older were bickering and fighting with each other, and it was part of the friends in the neighborhood. And I told her, I said, my children don't behave that way. And she's looking at me. And then I was like, do you understand? We don't behave that way. And she's like, yeah, I get it. I said, okay, we'll head upstairs, get ready for bed. And I immediately said, that does not sit well with me. That is not right. She is always my child. What am I saying? Even if she behaved whatever way, she's my child. And so I was like, I was like, what do I really want to say? What I really want to say is my expectation of you is you're kind, you're respectful, you behave in a way that is, an honor to yourself and to one another. So I went upstairs and I said, Cam, I just want you to know you're always my child. When I said my children behave this way, that sounded like I'm excluding you. Like, if you don't behave this way, you're not my child. So you're always my child. And my expectation of you is, and I said, please, do you forgive me? I asked for forgiveness. Do you forgive me for saying that? She's like, yeah, of course. I'm like, yeah, I want you to know you're always my child. And the king in the home, if you what's the worst thing? Banished, exiled from the kingdom. What does the Vatican do? Excommunicate you from the blah, blah, blah. You're like, I'm out of the tribe. I'm out of the tribe. Why? Because you did not do what the tribe said to do. Like, are you kidding me? And the true nature of kingship is to bring everyone within in a loving way that belongs, not to. So yeah, I had a huge parenting lesson of, and I don't know if I heard that growing up. It doesn't seem like something I heard growing up, but it's a narrative that's been a tape in me. Like my children don't act that way. And I think I've probably picked it up somewhere, but no, my expectation of you is whatever it is.
Yeah, here again, this is the shadow side of the king, because it's about you, it's not about them. When you say, my children don't do this,
that's right.
They
Yes.
feel like a part of you. They don't feel like themselves. They don't feel like their own self, so to speak. So one of the things that a real king does is bless his people. Now that sounds cheesy, like blessing everyone, but it's not about that. It is about praising the virtues of the people, because a real king knows that if you're focused on their virtues, that is what will grow, because where you focus your attention, that grows. Where focus goes, energy goes. And a real king knows this. So a real king will override the ego wanting to punish and to push down and feel like powerful. A real king will not allow that. A real king will think, okay, so how can I turn around? How can I turn this around? How can I evoke their best sides so that they will see the difference between the best me and the less good version of me? And that's where the lesson is. When you can help someone see it without guilt tripping them, without punishing them, that is where prosperity will grow. That is where abundance will grow. That is where compassion will grow. That is where love will grow. And that is also where curiosity will grow, because it will allow them to try new things. If you punish them, if you say you are excommunicated because you are not acting the way my children will act,
Right.
that is programming. And this is why I say our society has totally missed this point, where you cannot do anything with punishment. You can only create boundaries.
Yes.
Limitations.
Yes.
And inside, outside, we, them, a polarization, and it's never a good thing. It's never, you cannot solve a problem by this.
Right.
So looking at the thing, I usually say you have to see the problem from its brightest side. So if a child is causing you problems, find the brightest side, show that to them, and they will know how it feels to make a mistake. And you won't need to punish them. They will see the difference. All they need to do is see the difference. They don't need to feel the pain of punishment.
Right. Agreed.
I know that it comes from our past. For me, it's the same thing. I do another thing. I go inside and I think, what did I do wrong? What did I do? Again, it's the ego. I didn't do anything wrong. This is a human being we're talking about. My children, or my son in this case, is a human being with his own life path, his own life. And if I see him as an extension of me, then my ego is triggered. Why isn't he doing what I want him to do? Because he's not supposed to.
That's right.
Truly,
That's right.
Our children are not extensions of us. They're not here to fulfill our dreams. They're not here to create nightmares. They're here to follow their life path. And as a sovereign being, as a queen in my kingdom, I will look at this with compassion and allow it to be there. Because I know that I cannot control that. I can only control my perspective. I can only control my version of it. I can only control my vision of it.
Yes.
And it's all about centering. So for me, this archetype is very much about integrity, authenticity, balance, even if I don't like the word balance, because we're always wobbling, and that is okay. In the wobble this is where the funny rush of a surprise is created, in that wobble. If everything was still, it would be stagnated. So there wouldn't be life. Life needs to move. So the wobble is there, but to know that it's only wobbling, it's not like someone's pulling me in a direction. I'm only wobbling, and then I'm back to center again. centering myself. Yeah. So I feel like it's so much about the centering part, about the integrity, about the boundaries, the healthy boundaries, and how you keep your own healthy boundaries and show your children how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Without harming others.
Right. Right. It's beautiful. Um, as in all these archetypes, fear is the number one thing that keeps us from stepping into the positive side of these archetypes. I can see so many, I can feel so many afraid to step into what is a true sovereign, what is a true king. And one of the things that I think is important sharing here is, and I've shared this before, but if we are unable to say the word no to another person, our yeses mean nothing.
Nothing. If they lead to victimhood.
Always. It's actually, it's an impossibility not to be in victimhood if we are unable to say no and not feel guilty, not feel bad, not feel all this stuff. It's just no. I choose no. And then watch the internal battle, watch the fear, whatever comes up from that. That's what needs to be healed. But so many are afraid to even utter the words. No, I was working with, I had a call with someone who was not ready for coaching. They actually had to go to inpatient care or outpatient. They had to go to a facility. Some of the most traumatic abuse I've heard of. And what I just did on this coaching call is I said, I want you right now just to tap on your heart, tap on your head, and I want you to say the words no. And she couldn't do it. She couldn't do it. She was like, please no. And I said, no, you have to say no. And that word is so important because what we can't say no to is left on. That's why on and no are inverted. So the king, the queen can utter no or yes. And it has the gravity of all the results and all the implications of saying those two words. But so many are just stuck in saying yes, which is a servant. It's not a sovereign. It's a slave. It's not someone with sovereignty. So that's an important aspect of this archetype.
Yeah, I was thinking about what you said when she couldn't say no, she had to say please no. Please is a survival mechanism because if she doesn't say please, she might get killed. So this is where the fear comes in. And if she says no, just no, then she has to fight. And that's not possible when you're a child. If you're an abusive, say that your father is abusing you, if you say no, you might die. So you have to say either please no or just nothing, or say yes because you don't want to die. This is why you can't say no. Tapping into the sovereign within you means that you can say no in a loving way and trust that you won't be killed because you know who you are.
That's right.
To say no in a compassionate, loving way, to say, no, I don't want that. It's all cool, but I don't want that, without hurting other people's feelings. I think that's the problem with most people today. We say yes because we think we're going to be judged if we say no, or they'll be angry, or they won't love us. Oh my God, they won't love us. Well, not everyone will love you unless you love yourself enough to be able to say no to things that you actually don't want. So it's a vicious circle, and it puts you in the shadow side of the king, and the shadow side of the king and queen. It's a very dark place to be in. It's like there are two poles. I read one active pole, which is the tyrant, and then there is a passive pole, which is the weakling. So the tyrant becomes like, I will control everything. I'm not listening. Everyone in my kingdom has to do what I tell them to do, or else. Or the weakling that says, I have no power at all. No power at all. It's those two, but it's the same. It comes from the same archetype. It's just the shadow side of it. When it is filtered through a thick layer of ego, that is when it comes to the tyrant or the weakling within us. And I see that when I look at leaders of today in our society, they are actually expressing the shadow side because it's filtered through fear. You don't want to make a mistake, so you don't know how to stand firmly on the ground where you, in your kingdom, so to speak. So you sell pieces of your soul so that you will stay in the power position, but that's not true leadership. That's not true king archetype. That's the shadow side of this. And I literally can't see a lot of people in power positions today that are expressing true king archetype energy.
Right.
Because it is selfless. This is why we talked about Christ. This is Christ consciousness, understanding, knowing that there's good in everyone, that you cannot polarize, that you have to take care of everything that is in your kingdom, not rule over it. So, yeah, go ahead.
We got Gloriana, who is awesome, and she brings such good energy to this. She says it's so ironic how it's easier and even natural for us to settle those boundaries with other people, and yet we struggle so much when it comes to our own boundaries and ego. She goes, also, when we say no, people expect us to explain why, and we have to remember that no is a complete sentence. Absolutely. I say the definition of sovereignty is this: when I say no, it is no. When I say yes, it is yes. That's it. There is no explanation. I will give none. It is a complete sentence. I love that. It's a complete sentence.
Yes, it is. It is a complete sentence. It's also about the energy behind the no, how you say no. If you're angry when you're saying no, then that is really full stop, don't come closer. But then you have to look at, why am I angry when I'm saying this? And I'm not talking about physical assault. I'm talking about emotional stuff when you're in a relationship and you just say, no, I don't want to. Like a parent saying no to a child who asks for something. For me, it was like, I couldn't just say no to my son. I had to explain why, but that's a different situation. It's something else when people ask you to do things when you're a grown up and you are just saying yes, yes, yes to everything because you want to be loved or valued or seen. Now, tapping into that, there's a side to that no. So you have to look at, why am I not able to say no? Why do I need an explanation after no? And finding that within yourself helps you to just say no. No, thank you.
Right.
That's maybe thank you. No, thank you. I don't want that.
Yeah, no, thank you. In your coaching with all the people you've worked with over the years, I mean, you helped me find my sovereignty. When does that switch or that light switch come on? When have you seen it like click? When does it click for people?
It's different for everyone, but there is one red thread in this. And it's like when you realize that victimhood is a choice. When you realize that you are choosing, it's not a choice when you're a child. This is where you are programmed into believing that that is a part of your identity, that you're powerless, that you're not in your own center. Someone else is your center. You're perceiving reality through a parent or someone else that is abusing you. So when you're a grown up and you realize that you're choosing the victimhood, then you start thinking, well, okay, so if I'm choosing, who is doing this choosing? And then you realize that, okay, it's ego choosing this habitually because it's a pattern. And then you go, but okay, if I'm not ego, then what am I? And that's where they start understanding that there's a sovereign energy owning everything. It can take a long time, or as with you, it can take a very short time, because I think you were already on the path, realizing that there is this vertical energy going through you. You just didn't know how to direct it and what to do with it.
Right.
I think it's when you understand that victimhood is a choice. Now, this is a really tough thing to say in our society, because you will be spiritually beaten up when you say this, or emotionally beaten up when you say that victimhood is a choice. And For me, when I say this, they will say, well, you don't know what victimhood is. I can see that on you. And that is not the truth. I do know what victimhood is. I've been there for a very, very long time. So I do know that it is a choice. And I know it because I've experienced it. I've seen it. I know how it feels to say no, thank you.
Right.
Or no to my victim. To say, no, that's not who I am. That's not my identity. You know, I had an experience with a woman the other day, and she went through a really, really tough operation. She had her liver exchanged. I mean, she had a liver transplant and she survived this. And I didn't know this. She was like looking great and everything. And I was like, oh my God, you look so great. Have you been on a vacation or something? And she says, you know what? I really don't like to talk about this, but I've actually had a liver transplant. And I'm like, what? And then she says this, she says, why I don't want to talk about it is because I don't want that as a part of my identity. That's not who I am. She chose not to go into victimhood. This is a door opening into victimhood. You could talk about this for the rest of your life. You would say, oh my God, I went through a horrific thing. I had to transplant but my liver was transplanted and it was horrible. And she just closed that door and she said, that's not who I am. That's not a part of my identity. I had it, but it's not, I don't like to talk about it because it's not a part of who I am. And I'm like, whoa. That was really, really a choice made in the now moment of not being a victim. Sometimes you need to explore these things, and that's okay. Knowing that you're exploring it, that it's not who you are, that's where the true power comes. Knowing who you are means that you know that you're this vertical, sovereign energy, choosing the kingdom around you, choosing how the atmosphere of your kingdom around you.
Yes.
I was thinking so much about the atmosphere and the kingdom and dome, home, and looking at my father, who was supposed to be the king, or the one that expresses the king energy to his children, protecting them. And I was thinking, how was that in my home? What was that? And all I could see was darkness because he had chaos within him. So we had chaos around us. Wherever he put his spire, there was chaos. When he wasn't there, everything was in order. There was light. It was easy because I knew who I was. As a 6-year-old, where I put my spear, I knew that it was going to be beautiful. And then when he came home, the darkness came into the dome, to the kingdom. And as a child, you can't protect yourself from it. You can find survival mechanisms, but you live under that dome. So yes, it's so amazing to understand what power you have in your kingdom. You have your kingdom, I have my kingdom. Your children they have small kingdoms that are growing, and your energy is actually bleeding over to their kingdoms. So how they conduct themselves, how they explore this reality will be sort of a mirror of what you showed them as the king in your home.
So just tying it back to when I told my daughter that my expectation of you, there's a verse that says, the old prophet wrote, where there's a lack of vision, people perish. And then he also wrote, deferred makes a heart sick. So no vision, no hope. No hope, sick heart. Sick heart, dead culture, dead community, dead relationships.
Sahara.
Yes, truly.
Sahara, like the desert, no water, no life, nothing. Yes. Okay.
Desolate, right? And so when I said, my children don't behave that way, and then I was like, whoa, that's not in alignment. What do I need to go say?
Ego. Yes.
Totally an ego. And then it felt really good to say, my expectation of you is, my expectation of your behavior is, and that set vision. And then they can live to the vision. And that's where I think kingdom is, it's a kingdom of light. We are here to be the kingdom of light. We are light. We are to shine light. We are to be light. And so vision allows us to look up and cast this light. But when we exclude, that's where we're excluding them into darkness, or we're dividing it. And you said the darkness entered your kingdom
Yes.
because you had a kingdom of light. Same with me. I was thinking, what was my father representing? It was almost an uncontrollable fire that at any moment just burn, like in a
Yes.
like
Yes.
gonna get burned. And later on, when I started the healing journey, like early on in this journey, I heard through a chain of people that, well, he referencing me, used to write me such nice cards for Father's Day or my birthday. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, that's how I kept the fire
Away.
contained. Hello. Yes. And it's just an interesting thing about this archetype, and just to truly understand like the father figure, what that represented, or the mother figure, what that represented. And what's beautiful is you and I get to represent and help others represent this new age of love and light and beauty and sovereignty.
To own your kingdom fully by being centered and aligned with your higher self always, and walk your talk. Because why do you need to walk your talk? Because wherever you go, your kingdom follows. So if you're moving vertically in this world, wherever you go, this kingdom follows you, and everybody that enters it will feel the atmosphere in your kingdom. So why do we feel at ease with people who know who they are? Because they accept what others are unconditionally. They don't feel threatened by the difference that they're seeing. They actually see it as something curious. Can I learn something here? This is another thing that is important to the king archetype. It is, how does the king archetype take feedback? If you are tapped into the shadow, you cannot take feedback. You will see it as an attack, and you will counterattack that. If you're tapped into your own centeredness, you will say, oh, okay, so how can I do this in another way? You will look creatively. How can you create yourself in a different way? Because you know that you're creating yourself all the time, which means that you're not stagnated. You don't know everything about the world. The more you are curious about the world, the more it tells others that you're centered, because you dare to look at new things without being afraid of them. That is when you're tapped into this king archetype energy within you, or queen archetype energy within you, when you know that you can play in your kingdom. That's what you're here to do. Of course, you will be challenged. There will always be an obstacle or a problem. That's the funny rush of a surprise. That's the wobble. That's what makes life more enjoyable, because it creates a contrast in your life. But as a king of your own kingdom, to know what that contrast is, that is not your life, that is a part of it, that is a shadow in it, and it's a contrast so that you will enjoy something else. To know that this too shall pass. A king and a queen knows how to soothe the ones in its kingdom. They know how to soothe. They know how to inspire. They know how to say that everything will work out. They know how to tap into their power when others feel powerless. So I think it's such an important archetype that we actually never touch upon in our society anymore today. It's almost like we never talk about the sovereign human being. We are always tapped into being a part of something, being in this way where everyone is going. I think it's healthy to look at the sovereign human being. Every single human being is a point of awareness in time and space, which means that we're all different, because we are born in different times and different spaces, and our awareness is here to explore different things. So every single one of us, being their own king and queen in their kingdom, how would I not respect your kingdom if I respect my own kingdom? So the first step is to respect your kingdom within you. How centered am I? How 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 do I pursue my goals? Am I blessing people around me? What is my legacy when I leave? Those kind of questions. No one asks those today because we're so preoccupied with everything that is happening outside of us that
Yeah.
we're just jumping into it and following everyone else. Start following yourself. That's where the truth is for you and your life path.
That's right. The in a world that we live in where knowledge is so available, we can search knowledge of whatever we want on the internet, as long as it's not shadow banned or hidden. But we have the ability to gain knowledge easily. However, the true king and queen archetype take knowledge and turn it into wisdom. And the wisdom is only from within. The wisdom, I just have this vision or this image of a council where people come to the king and queen, not because they have to pay homage or honor the king and queen, but they have something that they would like counsel from the king or queen. And a king or queen doesn't feel too good for, but the true service of taking the wisdom and sharing this wisdom to see it differently. I think that is this whole concept of wisdom. I haven't heard society or culture or anyone, quite frankly, in any community talk about wisdom in a very long time. But wisdom is akin to humility, nobility, honor, a sage like, and the king and queen have that.
Yeah, well, it's someone who can stand for peace in times of violence. This is really hard. I mean, when you can stand for peace in times of violence, this shows you how powerful this is. Wisdom is always rooted in peace. Always. So if you, of course, there's knowledge everywhere. There's information everywhere. What you do with it, that is what makes a difference in this world. So we can all pick up on information, as you just said. But how do you process it? Like when you're chewing it and swallowing it, what does it do to you? Do you know how to transform dangerous information into something that is beneficial for everyone? Or are you just spreading it out there, gaining people that will see you because you're saying something that might attract a lot of people to you, because everybody's looking for fearful things. We want to protect ourselves. Instead, you need to transform it into something that people can say, oh, wow, I didn't see it this way. This might be the truth. And it feels good. And it's easy. Peace is always easier. It feels better from inside, which is a sign that it comes from some kind of truth. So for me, it's someone who can literally stand for peace in violent times.
I love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
There's no, keep going. Sorry.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
This concept of peace. I wanted to talk about this concept of justice that I was sharing before, because this reminds me of peace. So I was sharing with Gordana earlier this week. I had a massive download because I've been so frustrated with the lack of justice. I wanted justice. Like, I even wrote this song, we want justice now. I was like, justice, I want justice. Where is the justice? Why can I not see justice? And it was bringing me in this low vibrational state. And all of a sudden the download came just like a lightning rod, just boom, just came in me. And it showed me that when I look for justice, then I acknowledge that there is injustice, that justice has not been applied yet, which brings me into the injustice, which pulls me into injustice. So I'm in the vibrational frequency of injustice when I am looking for justice and I don't see it take place. And then I heard that justice is always taking place, always. right now, ever present. Justice is always taking place, but justice is always applied to the viewer. And if whatever I seek will manifest immediately, that is justice. And then justice is also a play on words with just us. So those that we seek to create the new earth, the new world, where are we going, and not turn back and look at, well, why aren't they dealt with? Why isn't there just? That's not justice. Justice is the fact that we can create whatever we want with just us, have the vision for the sovereign, the benevolent, the loving, the kind, the light, the love, and it always will manifest. That is justice. And I was thinking about how this applies to what you're saying with peace. Peace in a time of conflict seems out of place when people are like, oh, but peace truly is the prize of our existence with one another. We can manifest peace not when we combat the war or fight the war, but literally go and create peace with one another. It's not giving the energy to the war. The whole world will always be at war. The world has always been at war. I mean, what do they teach us in history for children? War, 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 war. It's all war. And yet all of us are not at war with each other. You're talking about the United States is always the war country, but the people of the United States are the most loving, like amazing people. They're just beautiful humans. And so it is our job to say we are leaving this old narrative of lack of justice or war and say, no, we are creating peace with one another. And we don't get sucked into this duality any longer. We don't get sucked into this low vibrational this or that. It's like, no, the wisdom is saying we are going to create peace with one another. Regardless of what the TV says, it's almost like the TV just wants, come look at me, come look at me, come look at me. There's no peace, there's no peace, there's no peace, there's no justice, there's always peace. And there's always justice when I cast my vision for where I'm going, where we're going together. It's just a different paradigm. It's like leaving it's like closing the door. You said closing the door. It's like literally leaving all the world of duality, shutting that door. Or your friend who's wouldn't be in victimhood. I'm not looking at war anymore.
Yes. It's a question of literally focusing on the center. And this archetype, as I said, it's the same symbol is for the archetype of the self, the one exploring this reality. So every time you feel like, oh, I need to do this, I need to do that, you're tapping into the motion, the kingdom around you, and you're trying on the outside to change something in here, and it doesn't work that way. It's always the other way around. So where you focus your attention, that is where your reality will be created. And I know that a lot of people will say, well, so what? Do you mean that I should not look at injustice? No. But if you're just sitting there in your living room screaming, oh, this is unjust, and then you scream to your neighbor, this is unjust, it's not doing any difference, is it?
No.
What happens is your ego is triggered and you feel like, oh, I'm doing something here. You're not doing anything. What you're doing is you're contributing with an energy that is lowering the co-creation even more. So what do you need to do? You need to acknowledge that there is, but then you need to find a place within you how you can change. And the change is when you are able to stand firmly and stand for peace in times of violence. Wherever you go, you might not be able to change that specific injustice, but if you take your kingdom with you wherever you go and you're grounded, you know who the king within you is, then it's hard to not affect the world around you because people are attracted to this kind of thing. So it's not always what you do and what you say. It's more like where you are in your silence, what you believe about this world, what you are expressing wordlessly into this world, and having patience that it will make a difference. And it does make a difference. We are not able to see everything in this world. We can see with our physical senses what is happening, but what we are thinking when we are alone, we think that it doesn't affect the world. Well, it does. If you know who you are, that affects the world in a positive way on a global scale, even though you can't see it. It does. Because wherever you go, your kingdom goes with you, which means that you will encounter other human beings. You might inspire them by being the peace and the violence. And you know what? Before we go, I want us to read the meditation that I usually do, because this, I realize that this is actually a way to access the king queen energy.
I love
And
it.
it's the I am the light in the darkness. I really want us to do this. So
Beautiful.
I'll read it and you repeat after me, and everyone else out there repeat after me. Okay, so what we will do is we will breathe in deeply and breathe out with a sigh. And one more time, breathe in and breathe out with a sigh. Now I want you to put your hand on your heart and repeat after me. I am the light in the darkness.
I am the light in the darkness.
I am the love in the hate.
I am the love in the hate.
I am the calmness in the storm.
I am the calmness in the storm.
I am the courage in the fear.
I am the courage in the fear.
Now breathe out, breathe in again. And breathe out. Remembering that you are the light, you're the love, you're the calmness, you're the courage. That is to tap into the king, queen energy. Every time you see, you feel it in your body. You can feel how it straightens you. You can feel how it makes you open. You own your reality. It's the ownership of your reality, knowing what is the truth about you. Anytime you feel something else than this, then you have fallen asleep and into this illusion that is created by others. They have actually invaded your kingdom. And the good part is you can always expel them through, because it's your kingdom.
Right.
Your inner world is your domain. No one can take that away from you. Your inner world is your domain. What you do there, what you choose to focus on, is what becomes your kingdom. I love this archetype because it's so, as I say, we do not talk about it, and it's so central to who we are. Yes. And how we walk here on earth. Do we walk as kings and queens, or like victims and powerless people?
I will share that as we're talking about this, and I've shared this many times, that this time to come, which is coming very soon, and everyone's played their perfect role. Every soul's come here to experience, whether they will be in victimhood, whether they'll be in sovereignty, whether they will walk in love, walk in fear, the dualities. But soon it will be that those who have chosen sovereignty in the age of fear and duality will, in love and light, teach and truly serve one another. And those who have chosen fear for whatever reason, maybe they lived, maybe their souls, whatever reason they came to experience that, will learn a new way. And I really see it's going to be such a beautiful time to come. This lie of war and destruction and fear and all this chaos is a distraction from us going within. Our kingdom has no end when we go within. It is boundless. It is forever. It is eternal. It is infinite. It is all that it is. And then we can share that with one another. That is truly heaven on earth. That is truly glorious. That is when the birds chirp a little bit louder, the colors become a little bit more vibrant, I love how you always say the funny rush of a surprise, and the wind, the
Yes.
breeze will come just a little bit more gently. And just everything becomes more visceral and beautiful in this time where we
Yes.
do go within and we do reclaim everything about our opportunity of being in this body right now.
Yeah, when you're saying this time will come, this time is now.
The time is now. Yes.
It's now. And you know, I really do appreciate the contrast in the world, because I wouldn't be able to have the funny rush of a surprise otherwise.
Yes.
I feel like when I am able to balance myself, regardless of whatever the contrast is on the outside world, I know that everything will be all right wherever I am. That's when the world becomes beautiful. In this space where I am, it doesn't mean that it will be peace everywhere, because we are many and everybody is creating and we're co-creating this reality. But if I can acknowledge my part of this co-creation, which means that I will stand in my light regardless of the darkness on the outside. I'm not waiting for the darkness to go away to shine my light. It will be there all the time. Everywhere I go, it will be there regardless of the darkness. I will be in peace regardless of the violence around me. That's how we start creating this, and that we can do now, right now.
Yes.
We don't need to wait for anything. It might be easier later on, I don't know, but we actually need to stand in our sovereignty, use this energy, this archetype, king, queen archetype, because it helps us, guides us like a GPS of what is important for us in this reality.
Yes.
So it has been a great conversation about the king and queen
really good
archetype. Really, I love how we explored this without, talking too much about the shadow side of it, because it is already out there in abundance. So we need to talk about the light side of the king and queen archetype. Yes.
This has been beautiful, and we've had some people pop on here late. Gloriana, again, thank you. Suresh wrote a beautiful thing and then he retracted it. I was gonna get to it, so I'm not sure, but brother Suresh, thank you. Mike, I haven't seen MM2 and now he said his name's Mike, so brother Mike, thank you. And then Sue Ellen, all the way from South Africa, watching. So thank you, Sue Ellen, and thank you everyone for watching. This has been a beautiful live.
Beautiful. Thank you everyone for being with us this Sunday, and we'll see you soon again.